back to my channel. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Grace, and today we're going to talk about something that's perhaps a bit late, but better late than never, because 2021 is almost upon us. And the last thing that I want to say before we leave 2020 is, what the f***? So I'm sure as many of you may know, back in November during the election, yes, I'm talking about the fact that Vladimir Putin was just so affected by Supernatural that he had to resign from being president of Russia. Here's the thing though, I'm actually not a fan of Supernatural. Back in the heydays of Tumblr, in the pre-DashCon days, I was just a mere, casual Tumblr user. I did watch Sherlock, I did watch Doctor Who, I just couldn't get into Supernatural. So the subject of today's video is not necessarily not about Supernatural, but it is about this book, Ship It by Britta Lundin. I don't know how to pronounce Britta. Is it Britta, like Brita filters, or is it Britta? Britta Lundin, or is it Britta Lundin? Anyway, this is a book. I didn't know this at the time of reading, but this premise is basically based off this fan interaction between Jensen Ackles and an unnamed fan who asked about Dean from Supernatural, his character, asked about Dean's sexuality because she sort of interpreted his character as being bisexual, and she asked about that but was rudely brushed off by Jensen Ackles. It's so weird to say celebrities just first names, unless they have one name like Beyonce. Anyway, going off tangent. So the premise of this book is based off that interaction. I didn't know it at the time when I first read it. I first read it when this first came out, I think about 4 years ago. When I first read this, I don't think I really absorbed anything. I just read it and was like, whatever. But then recently I reread it. You know, I'm being taken hostage by some of the dumbest fucking people on the planet. So of course I needed some escapism, and I really miss conventions. I miss conventions so much. Like I only see some friends at conventions. I miss them so much. So I was reading Geekerella, I was reading Queens of Geek, and I was like, you know what? I've heard some shit about this book. Let me reread it to see if I still feel the same way. I reread it. It's amazing how my eyes haven't rolled out of my head, because this book is fucking wild, and not in a good way. For those of you who don't know, Ship It. I'm just thinking about the plot is making me want to dissolve into a pile of goo. So the plot of Ship It is about this young fangirl named Claire who writes fan fiction for this Buffy Supernatural-esque in-universe show called Demon Heart. And she writes fan fiction for them, specifically about Demon Heart's two main characters, Smokey and Hart. Claire is just one of the POV protagonists. The other POV protagonist is the main actor from the TV show named Forrest. He plays a demon hunter, whereas his co-star Rico plays a demon named Hart. Why is he named Hart? Because he has a heart. Okay, Tin Man. So you're probably thinking, wow, fangirls, fan fiction, wow, just like me. Well, I hope you're not like her, because Claire is a whiny, entitled brat, and Forrest is done so dirty by the writing. So the plot, let's just get into the plot. The plot of Ship It follows Claire as she goes to a convention where Forrest and his crew and cast are holding a panel about Demon Heart. Claire asks a question about the main ship being Smokeheart, the two main characters. And she's like, oh, well, you know, I've been seeing something about Smokey and Hart, and you know, I wonder if they're gonna confess to each other. And then Forrest is rude. He is rude, don't get me wrong. He's rude as no. Okay, so I feel like there's a lot I want to go into with this book. Now that we've covered the characters and the basic premise, let's just kind of get into characters, because I feel like this is just more of a character-driven story, and I feel like if I can break down the characters, that can really just kind of go to show what's wrong with this book, seriously. Let's talk about the main character, Claire. Claire is a fangirl. Claire is not like other girls, and she's definitely not like the normies at her school. And like, she's such a nerd. And you know, being a nerd, you are basically signing up to be a social outcast. And it's just so hard being a nerd. It's just so hard, you know, being like better than the normies at your school. It's just so hard, you know, watching the popular girl like tie up her ponytail differently than her. And like her way of tying up a ponytail is so much better than the popular girl's way of tying up a ponytail. That was the thing that happened in the beginning of this book, and I'm just like, who gives a shit about how you tie up a ponytail? So Claire, yeah, that's basically like how we first meet her. And I'm just like, Claire, you are just unlikable. That's why no one wants to hang out with you. So Claire, she's like living in Idaho. She hates it, and because she's like so much better than the normies at her school, because she writes fan fiction and then looks up porn at her school library so she can write fan fiction better. How come her school doesn't have a firewall? And so once Claire and Forrest have that whole interaction at the panel, she runs off in tears. Oh, but that's not the end, because for some reason the executive team behind the TV show decide to bring Claire to their convention tour to do damage control. Which is like, you know, like cool when you like, you know, you have that fantasy, oh, like I go on a road trip with my favorite celebrity, and it's like, okay, cool, but like it's just not realistic here. Also, they like treat Claire like the fucking queen, and I'm just like, but why though? Because the TV show in universe is like struggling to get ratings. Claire is not like someone internet famous. She has like a couple thousand followers on Tumblr. However, a giveaway gets rigged so that Claire can join the cast and crew on their convention tour, and she sees this as an opportunity to make her ship canon. She's like, oh my god, maybe I can finally convince like the head writer to like see how in love Smokey and Hart are, so that like it will mean so much to people if they were canon. And it's just like, they're fictional. The thing that like I hoped would happen was that Claire would see how fiction and reality can and should be separated, in which ways it should be separated. The thing about Claire is that she constantly conflates fiction and reality and fiction. Like when she's talking to the actors, she's like, oh, Smokey's talking to me. When is the actor talking to her? Or like when she sees the character, she sees the actor, and it's just so much. And like there's this whole part where Forrest, the actor who rudely brushed her off, he's like, okay, like I don't really know much about fandom. Like, can you teach me, like, what's it like? I want to see your perspective. And she's just like, no, you wouldn't understand. And I think it's supposed to be written in a way that we're supposed to feel sympathetic for her. But that's not it, Chief. She's just annoying. This will definitely get into spoilers, by the way. So, like, spoilers. So when she, like, unsuccessfully tries to convince the head writer, Jamie, to make her ship canon, she decides to basically blackmail him. So she gets a hold of his Twitter account because of like this really fucking weird PR girl named Katie. So this PR girl just gives Claire, the showrunner's Twitter password for some reason. Please fire her. So she blackmails him with like nerdy pictures of him when he was like a gawky, pimply high schooler. And she's like, I'm gonna release these photos on your Twitter if you don't make Smoke Heart canon. And he's just like, oh my god, what the fuck? I need to call the police on you. He honestly should have. Here's the thing though, Jamie, the showrunner of Demon Heart, he's like written supposed to be an antagonist, but honestly I felt bad for him. So what Jamie does, he doesn't fall for Claire's blackmail. Instead, he lets Forrest's character in the show die, basically turning Forrest out of a job. Basically, Claire got a man fired because she wanted to make her ship canon. Also, there's this part in the book where Claire writes real person fan fiction of Forrest and his co-star Rico. I'm gonna go a bit of a tangent on real person fic, y'all. I hate it. I hate it so much. it's just so creepy. It's just so strange. And it's just, and we've seen real person fic affect real person's life because you are using real person's names. Hello. Like, real person fic is the reason why Archive of Our Own is banned in China. This is just a PSA, okay? Like, I know I can't control your lives, but please do not write real person fic. It affects real people's lives, real people who have feelings. Real person fic is just gross and it's creepy, and please stop it. Anyway, that's been my PSA for real person fic. Back to this. So she writes real person fic of the two co-stars, the real people, and rightfully so, Forrest is hella pissed about that. But then that doesn't really go anywhere. He's mad, and then he stops talking to her for a while, and then he starts talking to her again, like. And also Claire, so as you can see, there are two lovely ladies on this cover. Claire has sort of this queer questioning subplot with this girl named Tess. So Tess is a fan artist, one of Claire's favorite fan artists for the show. So when Claire and Tess meet, Claire is like getting these, like, you know, is getting smitten with her. Like, literally everything that Tess does throws Claire into this big gay questioning like spiral, and it's just like literally everything. She, like, Tess hands her her phone. Oh my god, am I gay? Tess looks at her. She's like, oh my god, wait, am I gay? And it's like, yeah, okay, big lesbian himbo energy, fine. But then Claire just keeps going and going with this like gay questioning. She's like, oh my god, like, if I'm gay, I'm like, I'm gonna have to cut my hair, go to Pride Parade, and like hang out with the other gay girls at my school, like following the source that, like, oh, if I'm gay, then I have to do all of this, like a gay checklist. And I'm like, Claire, you don't have to do that. I get it, yes, questioning is weird and messy, confusing. I've been through it. But then, like, when she gets to the end, like, the end of her, like, emotional arc or whatever is that she says she's queer, which is fine. But then it's like, to me, that just felt like she was just giving up on the questioning. She's like, I'm queer. Like, I don't know what I'm feeling, so, like, fuck what I'm feeling. I'm just queer. Okay, whatever. And so another thing about Tess is that she is hiding being a nerd from her normie friends. Because if she comes out as a fan, as a nerd to her normie friends, she's gonna be a social outcast. She's gonna be a friendless loser, and nobody will like her if she comes out as a nerd. That's why she has to hide. So you know what Claire does? You know what Claire does? She outs Tess to her normie friends. She's like, yeah, she likes this TV show, and yeah, she is here for the convention with all these other nerds, which is rude as fuck because they don't really know each other. But then Tess does the same thing to Claire, to her mom. She outs Claire's sexuality or questioning sexuality as like revenge for outing Tess to her normie friends, which is rude as fuck. And this is not just that. Like, Tess was like really pushy with Claire to come out to her. Like, oh, like, you don't know your you know your true feelings. You're just too scared to say it. Like, yeah, Claire, you are gay, like me. Like, she takes Claire to this gay restaurant. She's like, she tells Forrest that they were on a date, even though, like, Claire was still kind of unsure about it, which is rude as fuck. Tess outs Claire to her mom. Luckily, Claire's mom is, like, one of the coolest people on the planet, and I will take Claire's mom, make her my mom, because Claire is just so rude and judgy to her. Privilege. Anyway, these girls are just rude to each other. They don't know each other that well. They only know each other very shallowly. They constantly take away the other's agency, and yet at the end, they just inspire each other so much. Like, oh my god, you are so strong. Oh my god, you're so strong. Oh my god, let's date. We are just so strong together. And it's like, no, this is the start of a red flag. Anyway, so yeah, that's just a whole goddamn mess. I feel like I've ranted way too much about Claire. Claire is not a good look for fangirls. Claire should have gotten a serious wake-up call, should have gotten criminally charged. She gets rewarded for bad behavior. Not great. But let me get to Forrest. So Forrest, I'm just gonna hold this side up. Forrest is a young up-and-coming actor for some reason has nothing good to say about acting. And I feel like that's like going a little bit on a tangent, because I feel like that's a thing with a lot of like actor characters that I've read so far. They don't really have a lot of good things to say about acting. They just like complain about like how hard it is to be an actor. And I'm like, acting's cool, right? You want to do this job, right? Forrest has nothing good to say about acting, even though this is something that he chose to do. Like, he doesn't really know anything about fandom. He doesn't really know anything about nerd culture. He just got this job and he's working it. And but that's not to say he's not a nerd. There's this subplot where he is trying to get the role of this film adaptation of his favorite video game franchise called Red Zone. I feel like Red Zone might be a metaphor for the patriarchy or for toxic masculinity or something, but that doesn't really go anywhere. Forrest, doesn't understand like what this girl is asking, like Claire, when she asks her like question about the Smoke Heart ship at the panel, because he's been dealing with some like maybe feelings for his co-star Rico, who plays the demon opposite him in the main cast of the show. Forrest's character was really interesting. In the beginning you can tell he's dealing with some internalized homophobia, some internalized toxic masculinity, because he grew up in like a small white suburban town, I think in Indiana, so like, but that doesn't really go anywhere. Again, I feel like something must have happened like with the last couple of chapters in the book, because it just takes on a completely different tone. And like all the things that we think it's building up to just flip on its head, and then that happens and it's like, what the heck? Because the thing with Forrest is that, he really could have had something to say about, working in the movie industry, the TV industry, working, playing as another character, being in someone else's shoes, learning something about himself through the role, because that is like something that some actors have experienced when playing certain characters. Off the top of my head, like Sophie Turner when she played Sansa, or Helena Bonham Carter when she played Princess Margaret. Like, pieces of those characters still remain with the actors. They talk about that sometimes. And like some roles have like really have changed people. Like there's this actor named, I think his name is Jake Choi. When he played this fashion designer who was gay in this indie movie called Front Cover, he was like, I learned a lot about myself playing the role of like a gay man. And it just really opened my eyes to how heteronormative everything is, and that really helped me explore my own sexuality, my own gender. That's like really interesting. So he could have said something, Forrest could have like, because it really felt like it was building up to like him confronting his internalized homophobia, his internalized toxic masculinity, but it doesn't go anywhere. Even though Forrest was rightfully mad at Claire for like writing real person fic about him, just for some reason when they see each other again after that, he's just like so, oh my god, so inspired by her. Like, oh my god, she's so strong. Like, oh my god, I'm just so inspired by her. And it's just like, but why? I don't know if it's like an official TV trope, but like basically they have this big speech at the prom event, which is a San Diego Comic-Con panel, in which Claire, who for some reason is a moderator, that she's supposed to moderate a Demon Heart panel, and yet she goes off about her coming out self-discovery journey. If I were in that audience, I'd be like, excuse me, I came here for the Demon Heart panel, not for some random girl's coming out journey. I mean, good for you. I didn't pay like $1,000, I don't know how much San Diego Comic-Con costs, but I didn't pay $1,000 to be in this panel just to listen to this random girl's coming out story. So Forrest also has this big speech at the prom moment in which, like, yes, oh, fans are free to interpret the creation any way they want to. In a way, it belongs to them too. And he, for some reason, kisses Rico in front of this audience. I mean, okay, cool, I guess. But then it doesn't go anywhere, because Forrest starts dating the PR girl that gave away the showrunner's Twitter password to Claire. I mean, honestly, yeah, Forrest was right. Fans are free to interpret the creation however they want, and it shouldn't be dictated by the creator how they should take the work. Like, I feel like, the best example of this is Mark Hamill with his character Luke Skywalker. Like, he's like, if you see him as gay, then of fucking course he's gay. But then he doesn't have to kiss Harrison Ford to prove it. Forrest could have, like, had his big speech at the prom moment, and then maybe talk to Rico privately about maybe if he has real feelings for him, or not. Or maybe he could realize that, hey, you know, being an actor is probably not for me. I want to find something else that I'm passionate about. Like Jack Gleeson, you know, from Game of Thrones. Because, like, once Joffrey Baratheon died, Jack Gleeson was like, thank fucking God, I'm gonna go to college and then I'm gonna open a puppet theater in Dublin. Which is, like, honestly goals. But Jack Gleeson realized, like, hey, the pressures of being an actor is not for me. I don't think I can handle this lifestyle. And, you know, that's totally fine. Because I feel like Forrest, because like I said earlier, Forrest has nothing good to say about acting. So I'm like, why are you here? You can leave. But anyway, that doesn't happen. He gets another job, which is cool. But then, like, he could have learned something. He doesn't learn anything. He's still a straight guy, presumably. Like, we don't get anything that's changed about him from this whole experience. And so finally, I want to talk about perhaps the elephant in the room that maybe you've been itching for me to talk about, which is the fact that Britta Lundin is a writer for Riverdale. Yes, that Riverdale that has the highly iconic scene of I ran drugs for my Nana since I was in the 9th grade, and Archie saying, then you haven't experienced the highs and lows of high school football. I live in New York City. Do you think we have space for high school football here? No. I went to a public school in New York City that got only one floor of a school building because there were 2 schools squished into one. You think we had space for a football field? Archie, please, check your privilege. I'm pretty sure Britta Lundin was a writer for Riverdale at the time. I know she was at the time of publishing this book. I don't know if she was a writer at the time of writing this book. Because, okay, look, I'm a screenwriting, film, and creative writing student. So I'm not an industry person, but I have some insight into it. So, like, I find myself really questioning the nature of the representation of the TV industry in this book. Because the thing with Jamie is the, like, antagonistically written showrunner of the show Demon Heart. The way he's written makes it sound like he hates his job. Like, there's no insight as to what his vision for the show was. There's nothing about him that said why he's writing the show. So we don't really know if Jamie came up with this idea for Demon Heart, if he pitched it to executives, if he gathered his writer's room. Like, we don't know his relationship exactly to the TV show that he's the showrunner for, other than the fact that, like, he's just there to do the work. And so here's the thing, right? The thing that really gets me is that, like, even if Claire were to be successful in getting her ship canon in this show, Jamie, like, do you really think he's gonna write, like, good MM representation? What are you on, Claire? Honestly, in my opinion, I'd rather take no representation than bad representation. Do you remember when there was this whole thing on Tumblr about when a bunch of Clance shippers tried to crowdfund a whole reboot of Voltron so that they can make their ship canon? And then remember actual Voltron? And then remember actual Supernatural? Oh my god. Art really imitates life. So really, this book just kind of goes in all the wrong directions. Claire should have gotten her comeuppance. Forrest should have learned something about himself. And really, the lesson here should have been creators have the right to create whatever they want. They have the right to take their creation wherever they want it to go. But creators can't choose their fans. Creators shouldn't control how their fans interpret their work. Yes, reality affects fiction, and fiction affects reality. It's complicated and it's strange, but it's there. Over recent years, especially with the rise of social media, the fan-creator relationship gap has narrowed significantly. But it's sort of, the fan-creator relationship shouldn't be one controlling the other. It should be 2 parties loving this creation together. This book kind of touches that. But then when it But then there are problems with diversity in media as it is now, or definitely as it was when this book was published. Now we've been blessed with stuff like She-Ra, like Steven Universe, lots more LGBTQ books in the years since this book was published. So, but the thing is that really the problem with Claire and the problem with the plot of this book in regards to like its reality logic is that Claire is trying to chase a horse that's already too far into the horizon. There's basically no suggestions in this book to engage with actual diverse media. Like, remember when the movie Love, Simon came out? There were a lot of posts saying, hey, please go support this movie, because like when executives see that this movie about a young gay teen is doing so well, they'll know that that's where the money is at, and then they'll make more of it. Claire is chasing the dead horse that's already so far away. Don't waste your time trying to chase the horse that's so far away. You're wasting your energy on a fruitless endeavor. Forget the supernatural horse. The supernatural horse went on for way too long. 15 seasons! There are high schoolers that are younger. Forget Voltron. Voltron wrote itself into the dumpster fire. Forget about him. This is why you should engage with horses that are accessible and are right there for you. Befriend the horses that love you back. I feel like I'm going somewhere with this. With the finale of Supernatural, it really feels like this book has entered into a very unique meta space of a kind of self-fulfilled prophecy. Like this book, one of the main characters in the TV show died. Really making this book kind of in a weird, correct position. I don't know where I'm going with this. I don't really engage with the whole controversy about Destiel Gate, because I don't really care about Supernatural. Like I said, the supernatural horse is far away, and I wasn't chasing it to begin with. So this book just kind of enters this weird meta space for me, in which it's both incorrect and also a little bit right. And that's just so strange. Anyway, this book is terrible. It is not badly written, but it just really paints a bad light on fans, on nerds, nerd girls in general. The characters are just really not fleshed out, like nuanced, like deep in any way, because I really feel like if we had just gotten something a little bit deeper with all of this, maybe this could have been something like really strong. But the thing is that all the characters are just really shallow, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Anyway, if you're a fan of something, don't be a dick, and if you can, engage with actual diverse media so that they can get money to make more actual diverse media. I'm sure many of you have like heard of this already, but it's still like wild to me how like Britta Lundin is a writer on Riverdale, which doesn't win her any points, but she did write the episode that featured that iconic line, "I'm weird, I'm a weirdo. Have you ever seen me without this hat on?" Anyway, this is probably going to be my last video of 2020, and this is one of the worst books I read in 2020, so it's relevant. Also, we got that whole thing with Destiel Gate. Like, people have probably talked about this before, but I kind of just wanted to give it my own version of a Viking funeral, in which I flame it with my words and cast it off into the sea of the internet, where it will be taken in by the viewers and into their Valhallas. I need to go drink some water. I need to go edit this video. Thank you so much for watching. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel. I will be making many more videos to come in the year 2021. If you have anything to say about this book, whether maybe you liked it or maybe you hate it as much as I do, feel free to leave it in the comments. And with that, kiss your fandom friends goodnight. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!